What if I told you that what we've believed for centuries as Satan is actually something entirely different? What if there's a hidden secret in the Bible, one that could shake human understanding to its core and completely overturn our concepts of sin, forgiveness, and evil? Today, we're going to talk about Azazil, a name most people haven't even heard, yet one that is deeply embedded in Leviticus 16. If you truly understand it, your perspective might change forever. Now imagine this: a scene from ancient times. The heat of the desert, dust swirling in the air, and a people standing together, carrying the heavy burden of their deepest sins. This is no ordinary day. This is the Day of Atonement, a day not just of worship, but of the deepest reckoning of the human soul. On this day, 2 goats are brought forward. Just 2. But their purposes are completely different. And this is where the story begins. One that many people read casually, but never truly understand. The first goat is sacrificed. This part is easy to grasp. Sacrifice, blood, forgiveness, these are familiar elements of religious understanding. But the second goat? This is where things become strange, deeper, and honestly, a bit unsettling. The second goat is not killed. It is set free. But not just like that. First, all the sins of the people are symbolically transferred onto it. Every mistake, every lie, every injustice, placed upon this one animal. Then it is sent into the wilderness, a place from which it will never return. And this is where the name appears, Azazil. So the question is, who is Azazil? Is it Satan? Or something else? Most people quickly assume, yes, it must refer to Satan. But when you study the original text deeply, it's not that simple. Because if it were Satan, then why would a goat be dedicated to him? Would God establish a ritual for Satan? That question alone is powerful enough to make anyone pause. Some scholars say Azazil is a place, a desolate wilderness where sins are sent away. Others suggest it could be a spiritual entity, but not necessarily Satan. And some deeper interpretations propose that Azazil is actually a symbolic concept, a system where humans avoid confronting their wrongdoing by placing it onto something or someone else. Think about it. Was this just an ancient ritual? Or is it a reflection of human nature? All of us, at some point, try to shift the burden of our mistakes onto others. It wasn't my fault. I was forced into it. They are responsible. This idea of a scapegoat. It's not just about a goat. It's about all of us. And that's the real shock of Leviticus 16. It's not just about who Azazil is, but about how often we create our own Azazil. If Azazil isn't Satan, then what is it? Is it a system where sin isn't truly understood but simply cast away? Is it a psychological mechanism that gives temporary relief, but never solves the real problem? And the deepest question of all, if sin is only being transferred, not erased, then when does a person truly become pure? This isn't just a theological question, it's a human one. When you look closely at this entire ritual, you begin to see that it's not just a religious act, it's a form of drama, a visual lesson, a way to show that the weight of sin is real. And if you don't confront it, you simply send it somewhere else. Azazil then becomes more than a character. It becomes a concept, a place, a mindset, a system. And maybe that's why it's so confusing. Because we want simple answers. We want a clear villain, someone to blame. This happened because of Satan. But if Azazil isn't Satan, then where does the responsibility lie? The direct answer, with us. And that's the point where this story becomes uncomfortable. because now it's no longer just an ancient text. It stands right in front of you and me. Do we face our mistakes, or do we search for our own scapegoat? The scene in Leviticus 16 isn't just a ritual, it's a mirror. And when you look into that mirror, you don't find Azazil somewhere out there. You find it within your own thinking. And perhaps that's why this mystery is so profound. Because it's not just something to understand, it's something to feel. Now the story doesn't stop here. The real depth actually begins now. Think about it. If Azazil is not just a name or a place, but an entire mechanism, then what does each step of this ritual really mean? When you move beyond the surface and examine Leviticus 16 layer by layer, every small detail starts to feel like a coded message, as if someone intentionally designed a system that doesn't lead a person to truth directly, but through a winding path. The high priest, the one who represents the entire community. He is not just a leader, he is a bridge between humans and God. When he stands before the two goats, he isn't just dealing with animals. He is standing in front of two aspects of human nature. One aspect, dealt with through sacrifice. The other, through transfer. Here lies a very subtle yet powerful point. The first goat is for God. It is sacrificed. This is a direct act. But the second goat, it is not given to God. It is sent for Azazil. This difference may seem small, but this is where the entire narrative takes a turn. If both acts are part of the same system, then why is one directed toward the divine and the other toward something unknown? Doesn't this suggest that humans are not only dealing with God, but also with their own shadow? Carl Jung introduced the concept of the shadow. According to him, every human has a part they refuse to accept. Dark desires, guilt, shame, things we push out of our conscious mind. But they don't disappear. They simply shift. Now connect this idea to Azazil. When the high priest places his hands on the second goat and transfers the sins of the people onto it, is this a spiritual act or a psychological representation? Is this the moment where humans physically project their shadow? And then sending that goat into the wilderness. This is not just exile. In the Bible, the wilderness often symbolizes chaos, loneliness, and the unknown. It is a place where control is lost. So when sin is sent there, what is really happening? An illusion is created, a temporary relief. Humans feel everything is fine now. But in reality, they have only pushed their problem away. This is exactly what happens in the modern world. When a society blames one group for its problems, they are responsible. When a family places all its tension on one person, everything is your fault. These are all modern Azazil moments. And here comes the most shocking realization, Dom. Azazil may never have been an entity at all. It may be a process that gives temporary comfort, but fragment a person even more in the long run. At this point, another layer unfolds. Some ancient texts, like the Book of Enoch, describe Azazil as a fallen angel, an entity that brings corruption and forbidden knowledge to humans. But this text is not part of the canonical Bible. Yet its influence is so strong that people automatically link Azazil with Satan. However, when you focus on the canonical text, you find ambiguity instead of clarity. And sometimes ambiguity is the biggest clue. Because when something is not clearly defined, perhaps it was intentionally left open, so that every generation could explore it according to their own understanding. So the question is Azazil a name we have misunderstood, or a mirror we refuse to look into? And the deepest twist is this: if Azazil is not an external enemy, then escaping internal responsibility is no longer possible. Then excuses like, "Satan made me do it," become weak. Then a person has to accept that their decisions, their choices, are their own. This realization is heavy because it brings freedom and also burden. Freedom because you can change your life. Burden because there is no external villain left to blame. And perhaps that is why this concept is so rarely understood, because it is not comfortable. The entire ritual of Leviticus 16 then becomes a form of drama. A drama that shows humans that sin is not just an action, it is a weight. And what you do with that weight defines your soul. Do you transform it through sacrifice, or transfer it through a scapegoat? And here, the story reaches an even deeper turn. Because if you keep transferring, then one day nothing will remain except unresolved things that will eventually return. The wilderness never absorbs things forever. It only hides them. And when they return, they often come back stronger. So what is the real solution? Is understanding Azazil the first step? Or is there a path beyond that? A path where a person not only understands their sin, but transforms it? That is the question whose answer becomes clearer in the next parts of the story. And perhaps this is where the real journey begins. Now, from here, the story takes another unexpected turn. And this is the point where many people are left stunned. Because the pattern we saw in Leviticus 16 doesn't stay limited to that moment. It appears again later in another historical scene, but this time the stage is not a desert. It's a city, a crowd, and a decision that changes the course of history. The scene shifts. We arrive at an intense moment in the Gospel of Matthew. The Roman governor Pontius Pilate is standing before a crowd. In front of him are two men. One, Jesus Christ. The other, Barabbas. And what happens here feels eerily familiar. Pilate says, "I will release one of the two to you. Tell me who." Pause for a moment. Two individuals, one innocent, one a criminal, one who will be sacrificed, one who will be released. Does this pattern seem familiar? Exactly, two goats, one sacrificed, one set free. This doesn't feel like a coincidence. It feels like an echo, a new version of an ancient ritual. Now the detail goes deeper. The name Barabbas. If you break down, Bar means son and Abba means father. So Barabbas literally means son of the Father. And on the other side, Jesus, who is called the Son of God. This paradox is so powerful that it's hard to ignore. Both are, in a sense, sons of the Father. But one carries a violent past. The other represents purity and sacrifice. Now the crowd makes a decision. And what do they say? Release Barabbas. At this point, the story becomes a living reenactment of Leviticus 16. One goat is released, carrying the weight of wrongdoing back into society. The other is sacrificed. But the twist goes even deeper. In Leviticus, sin was physically transferred onto a goat. Here, people project their expectations, their frustration, their misunderstanding, all onto one man. Does Jesus become the sacrificial goat here? And is Barabbas a reverse version of the scapegoat? Someone who, despite guilt, is set free? This inversion is very strange, because in the ancient ritual, the scapegoat carried sin into the wilderness. Here, Barabbas returns to society with it. So then, who is the real scapegoat? This question isn't simple. Some scholars say that Jesus fulfilled both roles, both sacrifice and scapegoat. Because not just the sins of one community, but symbolically, the sins of all humanity were placed upon him. And when he was crucified, it wasn't just an execution. It was a kind of cosmic-level transfer. But if you look at it from a psychological angle, it becomes even more disturbing. Because here, an entire crowd is placing its frustration and anger onto an innocent man, and then justifying it. This is the same pattern we saw in the concept of Azazil, shifting blame, avoiding responsibility, creating a scapegoat. And here comes the most uncomfortable realization. Azazil wasn't just in the wilderness. Azazil was within the crowd. People, consciously or unconsciously, repeated a system where they needed an outlet, a release, a moment where they could say, "This is all because of him." And once they said that, they felt temporary relief. But from the perspective of history, it became one of the greatest moral failures. Now there's another subtle layer. This scene also appears in the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of John. But one thing remains consistent everywhere: choice. Humans were given a choice. And perhaps this is the central theme that runs from Leviticus to the Gospels. Humans always stand before two options. One, sacrifice, transformation, truth. The other, escape, projection, blame. The release of Barabbas is not just a historical event, it's a symbol, a reminder that humans often choose what is easy, not what is right. And here, the story comes back to you and me. Every day in our lives, we face small Barabbas moments. When we sacrifice truth and release our comfort. When we place our mistakes onto someone else and convince ourselves that we are innocent. So Azazil and Barabbas begin to look connected, like threads of the same fabric. Both represent a process where humans project their inner conflict outward. And perhaps that is the biggest shock, that these are not separate stories. They are different chapters of the same story. One written in a desert, and the other repeated in a crowded city. And both times, humans did what felt easier in the moment. But the question still remains. And now it feels even more intense. If we were in that crowd, would we also have said, "Release Barabbas"? Or would we have recognized the pattern and broken it? Now the story reaches its final turn. And here everything comes together. Azazil, the scapegoat, Barabbas, and most importantly, the human being. The patterns we saw in Leviticus 16, the echo we felt in the Gospel of Matthew. Now they are no longer just historical or religious discussions. They become a mirror, and in that mirror, every person sees their own face. Now the first question people ask, is Azazil actually Satan? The direct answer, there is no clear statement in the canonical Bible that declares Azazil to be Satan. This interpretation mostly comes from later traditions and texts, like the Book of Enoch. But when you look at the original passage, Azazil remains ambiguous. And perhaps its power lies in that ambiguity. Because when something becomes a clear villain, it's easy for humans to blame it. But when it remains unclear, a person is forced to look at themselves. The second question, if the scapegoat was just a symbol, did sin actually disappear? This is a very deep question. The ritual was a reminder, a teaching tool. The concept of sin wasn't erased. It was understood, acknowledged. But humans often mistake the ritual for reality. And that's where the problem begins. The third question often raised, is the connection between Barabbas and this ritual just a coincidence? Some may see it as coincidence. But when you look at the entire narrative flow, two figures, one sacrifice, one release, a crowd making a decision, the pattern is so strong that it's hard to ignore. It feels like a reminder that human nature doesn't really change over time. Only the context does. And then comes the most personal question. What does all of this have to do with my life? This is where the whole story reveals its true power. Because this isn't just theology, it's psychology, behavior, everyday decisions. Every time you accept your mistake, you choose sacrifice. Every time you shift blame, you create a scapegoat. Every time you stand with truth, even when it's difficult, you break a pattern that has been repeating for centuries. And it's also a reality that humans are not perfect. All of us, at some point, use the system of Azazil, sometimes in family, sometimes in society, sometimes within our own minds. But the difference isn't that you never make mistakes. The difference is what you do with those mistakes. Do you understand them and transform them? Or do you place them on someone else and move on? The secret of Azazil may not be about who it is, but what it represents. And once you understand that, the entire story begins to appear in a new light. The scene of Barabbas is no longer just a historical decision. It becomes a warning, a reminder that the crowd is not always right. And sometimes truth stands alone. And perhaps the most beautiful closure is this: the story does not end in despair. It ends in choice. Every day you have the same two paths. One easy, one right, one that gives temporary relief, one that brings lasting change. And maybe that's why these ancient stories are still alive today. Because they are not just about the past, they are about the present. They are about your next decision. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where you have the chance to shift blame or to face the truth, pause for a moment and think. Are you creating your own Azazil? Or perhaps you are about to break a pattern that has existed for centuries?